What's up, folks? You've got Rob from Terror at Synth High, and today we're going to answer some questions. Well, I'm going to answer some questions about me that you guys asked. This is going to be a little more of an informal video than usual. No skits or any of that kind of stuff. Just me answering some bullshit about myself that you guys say you want to know. And I'm very appreciative that you guys sent in some questions about that. I have a variety of different types of ones here. So if there's anything else you'd like to know, please respond that in the comments as well. But for now, let's just jump right into these. So, starting off with question number 1, this comes from Sterling from the Wacky World Lounge. It's going to be a good one, I can tell, if I know Sterling. So Sterling asks how many White Castle cheeseburgers I usually eat in a sitting. I talked about liking White Castle cheeseburgers last time. I don't know, man, usually like a meal, if you go to the place, is like 4 burgers and like a medium or large fries and a drink. Now, where I live, I'm not actually really that close to any White Castle, so I usually get the frozen ones, and I'll eat probably like 4 to 6 in the sitting. And he followed up this question with, and how many do I smear all over my body first? I don't smear them on my body. I devastate them. Fine, 2. I smear 2 on my body. So next, Movie in the Middle asks, how do I have time for running the candle business, doing my regular full-time job, and doing YouTube? Thanks for the question, man. To be quite honest, the silver lining of the pandemic, I gotta be honest, obviously it's been, terrible for a lot of reasons. I've been able to work from home in a lot of ways that I wasn't before, so I can kind of, jump back and forth between computers on breaks and, with lunch and things like that, and I don't travel as much, so I can kind of get a little bit more done there. Without, the travel part of my day used to be pretty long too. So, that's definitely a part of it. And also with that, I kind of stopped doing as much with the candles when the pandemic hit as well, because I was selling them to stores around the area here that were like local stores. And it wasn't really able to do that as much. So in an odd way, the pandemic actually helped with that, kind of slow things down there. But I am going to be doing all of that together again soon. And, for me, one of the things that's a benefit is that I, organization is kind of part of, I have a lot of practice doing it because it's part of the, the job that I do as well professionally. And, so I think that helps a little bit with it. There's a lot of late nights, things like that, and minimizing things that I, kind of putting things in compartments and minimizing when I do them and how much. For example, I used to play a lot of video games. I love video games, but I had to really drastically reduce that. Like a couple of years ago, I got, Breath of the Wild when I got a Switch, and I was just like, this game's great, but it's gonna eat my life. Like now, I had to put it down and just put it away, and I never played it because I knew I would never get anything else done. So now I mostly play just like small indie games that I know are only gonna take like a couple hours or something. So, that's kind of how I manage those things. So Nosa Genre Cult asks for my favorite 5 Giallo movies and favorite 5 hard rock or metal bands. Yeah, so to be quite honest, like I don't really watch too many Giallos anymore. I love slashers, and Giallos, obviously led into that, and led away from the Italian part and then into the American culture, more with the slasher movie. But I mean, I really appreciate them, and I do love them. I find them a hard sit through these days. I don't know, maybe I'm just desensitized, but I do love a lot of the classics. I don't know if you consider Suspiria, a straight Giallo or not, but if you do, then definitely that and Inferno. If not, Deep Red is great. Opera, Phenomena, as well as Don't Torture a Duckling. And let's say, what else are we gonna throw in there? Bay of Blood probably. So yeah, and in terms of, for metal, yeah, big metalhead. I can never answer this question either. It seems to change all the time of what my favorite metal bands are, but just thinking of like over time, like a lot of the bands I've always loved. For today, let's just say Carcass has always been big for me. I love In Flames, older In Flames, up until about like 2002 or so, from the beginnings in like 94, 95. For thrash metal, I love Sepultura. Thrash into, I guess, death metal. I love their stuff up until about 93 or so, so older stuff for them as well. Also love Darkest Hour. It's a great band that I listen to all the time. For a more, horror-related band, I know I talked about them a little bit on one of my other videos when I was talking about, like horror metal albums of like, death and like, death thrash kind of music from the 2000s. A big favorite band of mine is Frightmare. And they're very, very, very horror-based. So just lyrically based on like slasher movies and stuff. So, but the album, each song is on a different slasher movie. So definitely check that out. All right, so Jared from Jared Talks Cinema asks how old I am. Hey Jared, what's up, man? I am 38 years old. I act like I'm 17 maybe sometimes. I say we split the difference and just call me like 27, but I'm 38. I'm 38 years old. I'm 38 years old. Next question comes from Mondo Chelovek Movies. Hey John, how you doing, bud? So John asks if I've been on stage for different concerts and if I have any funny stories for that. I talked a little bit last time about how I was, I was in an orchestra when I was younger, from about 6 to 14 years old, and then after that I did, play some guitar in some bands, and I also do some keyboard music now. So with the stuff I'm doing recently, and honestly with the stuff that I was doing even with guitar before, no, I haven't really done any on-stage stuff. Everything I'm doing now is solo. Before we were, I was doing little band things here and there. Nothing ever really picked up into anything, just writing riffs here and there. In terms of when I was much younger though, like from like 6 to 14, I was in orchestra when I was probably about maybe like 11 to like 14, something like that. And we got to do some different shows, and I'd be on stage fairly often. So I was really done with it, and I didn't want to be doing it anymore. Like by the time I was like 13, 14. So one of the last shows, and this is actually before a show, it was a big recital for a show. We were doing it at this guy's, property who had like a lakeside property. And, there was a big lake, and there was like an island in the middle of the lake. And, ritzy kind of deal. So I was there, my sister was there. She didn't play in the orchestra, but she was just, hanging out there. And I'm just like, there was like a break, and I'm just like, I don't want to be here. Hey, you want to just go take the like pool rafts? Like you could just hang out like around the area there by like the dock. We decided we'd take them to the island, which was like 200 meters away or so. And like, you weren't supposed to go there. So anyway, so we're going over there, on these tubes. And, then we see everybody from the shore, and they're all just like, hey, hey, and we're just like, oh, hey, they're waving, hey, what's going on? Nah, they were really just, they were like, get back here, what are you doing? But we couldn't see him doing that. So yeah, we got out there, and it was pretty bad actually. It was like really buggy, and there were like these, the bugs like kept like biting our toes, like over in the raft. We got out there, we came back, a few minutes later, because there was nothing really to do there. And we got back to like, what are you doing? And like my dad's sitting there, and he's like, my mom's like, oh God, Bobby, why would you do this? There's a big show, so I didn't really care. So anyway, that was one of the last shows that I played, because I was completely done at that point. But yeah, that's what I got for you for today. Alrighty, so next question comes from Lisa Loves. Hey Lisa, how's it going? And Lisa asks about my social work career and challenges and rewards related to that. So I work in a therapeutic unit with families of children who've been through severe trauma. So one of the things that gets challenging is when court things get involved with that. That's something that's not my favorite part of the job. Sometimes I have to work with people who don't want to work with me because they are mandated by court to do things. So I have to monitor, their court agreements and go back and forth to court, and that's sometimes really hard to do when you're mixing it with a therapeutic unit and you're trying to, provide, therapy and mending for the family while there's also court orders. So sometimes that can just get a little bit dicey of how to balance that. There's other things as well, but that's one of the ones that that sticks out for me. One of the things that I really find rewarding is working with the kids, especially the teenagers. I have the opportunity a lot of time to be able to, and especially before the pandemic, just take kids out and sometimes just do like informal things with them, like hey, let's go get a burger, or let's like go kick a soccer ball around, or something like that, which is oftentimes where you get more information than in direct therapeutic sessions, which I'm not a therapist. I'm a social worker, and I work directly with the therapist. We both do a lot of group counseling sessions and things like that, though. So yeah, that's one of the things I find rewarding, is doing that, being able to connect with kids in that way, and also really being able to connect, help them connect with their families, to hopefully make better futures, because there's usually a lot of pain involved with with a lot of their pasts. So to see if a family can kind of move forward from that, that's great when you do get to see that. So that's something I really enjoy. Thanks for the question. Next up, Game Over Movie Reviews asks about my favorite music experiences attending and performing. So both cases. Thanks for the question. Yeah, so for performing, like I said, that was more back in the day when I was much younger, doing some of the orchestra stuff, and we did 2 really big shows, which were, although I didn't really love being in the orchestra at that point, they were still just pretty interesting to be able to do. And we went to Epcot Center down in Disney, and we also went to Kennedy Space Center, and we played some shows there. So that was interesting. It was also very nerve-wracking, that was to be able to play at those big kind of venues. But they were like one-off show kind of things. It's like they invited us to come down there and do it once, and I thought that was pretty interesting. In terms of attending shows, they were mostly metal shows, and I could do a whole episode on just stories from that. But I'll just talk about one right now. That was pretty fun. It was probably like 2001 or so, something like that. And I went to a show with Darkest Hour, Shadows Fall, and Lamb of God. And it was in upstate New York area. It was a really small show in like the middle of nowhere. These bands were still pretty fairly new at that point. Earlier in their career. So I was a big fan of all 3 of them, and it was great. So before we got there, we're just like, are we even playing today? Because we were waiting outside there for a while, and everybody got there like last minute, and just kind of the show went on. And I think that the bands were kind of surprised too at how the size of the venue. So yeah, we met Lamb of God in the parking lot. And they're just sitting out there, by their car, just like eating gummy bears. And they're like, "Hey, you here for the show?" We're like, "Yeah." We're pretty young. And they're just like, "Cool. You want some gummy bears?" We're like, "Yeah, okay." So yeah, we just ate gummy bears with Lamb of God. Pretty cool. These weren't Reed gummy bears or anything. These were just gummy bears. So we just sat there and just ate gummy bears. And we're just like, "Yeah, your new album's really cool." They're like, "Thanks." Just chewed on gummy bears. I don't know, it stuck in my head, it was pretty fun. Okay, so a couple of questions left. This one comes from Cascadia Dread, who asks, what are some of my favorite non-horror movies? And that's a good question. Thanks for asking, man. So 2 of them I actually got to visit the filming site locations for recently, which when I was out in Vegas, I was right near California, and that was for The Wizard and for Pee-wee's Big Adventure, big classics that I loved growing up and still do very much. Yeah, I got to visit that. You can actually see the video of that one in my California and Nevada filming locations that were non-horror locations. So in addition to that, I love a lot of classics, a lot of comedy, really. Strange Brew is kind of a cult classic one from the early 80s. I don't think too many people know about, but that was with Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas, and it's like a beer buddy movie. These 2 Canadian guys, really just funny, goofy movie. I like movies like Blazing Saddles. Blues Brothers is a big favorite. I might do something about that on the channel in a non-horror section at some point with a buddy of mine. Yeah, but a lot of movies like that. Other movies like Step Brothers. Mostly comedy is probably my second favorite genre, but a lot of other stuff as well. I'll probably expand on that at some point. And last question for today comes from Video Creep. What's up, dude? How you doing? And he asks about my thoughts on the Fifth Dimension. And you mean the band? They all right. A little poppy. Aquarius isn't as good as Up, Up and Away, contrary to popular opinion, I guess. But I imagine that you're asking about the possibility of other realms where there are other versions of ourself that exist. And yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a possibility. Sure, it's not proven, but there's a lot of things that we don't know about space and just in science in general. We're still figuring out things about the ocean. So yeah, I think it's definitely quite possible. Just we know the expansiveness of our galaxy and galaxies outside of that, and to think that we would be the only plane of existence, I think is a little shallow. So I think it's definitely possible. For myself personally, I have my hands full just dragging my 3D ass through the fourth dimension each day. So I'll leave that up to bigger minds than mine, I guess. So those are the questions that you guys had for me. I hope I answered them in a satisfactory way. And please ask me anything else that you'd like to know. I'm going to keep this going on, like I said before, until one of us gets bored with it. So if you keep asking questions, I will keep answering them. I'll answer most things. So, you know, don't be shy. Just throw down any question you want to know. So to finish off today, I want to do a couple shout-outs. Haven't done that in a little while, and figured I'd you know, talk about some of the cool people that are on YouTube and some other people that I've met. And let's start off with this guy right here. You guys seen this guy before? I just got this shirt. Galactic Happy Hour. My buddy Slim over there. You gotta check this goblin out if you hadn't. He does a lot of toy reviews. He does you know, mixes in a lot of humor with what he does. He's basically a drunken goblin that sits, you know, in the middle of a swamp. Is it space? Is it space, Slim? I don't know, space swamp? I don't know, but it's really entertaining, so definitely check him out. The other YouTuber I want to talk about today is Need Gore. Now, you guys might know Need Gore. He's been around the horror community for a while, and he had a ton of different videos, a variety of content, great stuff. And his whole channel was taken down by YouTube recently, and he's back now as King Need Gore, is the name of his channel now. Definitely check it out, guys. I hate to see this happen. I don't know all the details. But I don't really care to know all the details. The guy has great content. I've seen it. I like it. I think you should check it out. So go and check it out over at King Need Gore and get this guy back to some of the subscribers that he deserves to have. So I also want to do a couple shout outs to some people on the Slasher app. So two people I want to talk about today. The Slasher app, by the way, is an app that you can get on iOS and Android, I believe. And it's basically social media for horror fans. So pretty cool, you should check it out. The first person I want to talk about, her name is Tenebrifica, and I'm going to write that down there because I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. But she does some paintings of different horror icons. One of the really cool things she did is I saw her taking some small trees and cutting side sections of them, and then taking those and putting a coating over that, and they're like magnets that you put on your refrigerator that have different horror icons. Pretty cool. She's just starting up, so I'll give her some love. The other guy I want to shout out to is his name is Poltergeist OD on the Slasher app, but his project, his band, is just called Poltergeist, and that's on Spotify. I'll leave the links for everybody's stuff down below in the description as well. But he does hardcore rap about horror movies, and I don't listen to a ton of rap, but I appreciate good music, and this guy's stuff is really well done. And his love of horror, shines right through. You can tell he's a huge fan, and I got a lot of respect for that. So great stuff. He has a song called A New Batch for Gremlins. That's probably my favorite one of his because it's really funny too. So go give him some love, guys. Well, that's it for me. So if you guys have any other questions, please put them in the comments. We'll keep this going. Something fun to do in between other videos. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Even the frozen ones aren't bad. I mean, you really want to get them from the place, but if you don't have a choice. I'm not smushing them on myself, Sterling. I mean, maybe if I start a Patreon or an OnlyFans.